Mahomes, Kelsey, anybody else of note. Chris Jones, who's actually got a calf, he definitely is not playing. It's set up for the Broncos should be able to win this game. I think they came out pretty heavy favorites.
It's up to like 9.5.
Yeah,
John.
imagine getting that line before the season, but not being told the context. You've been like, we must be unreal. But the Broncos this year, as great as the defense has been, as much as everybody loves the defense, Anthony Richardson, for the first half of that game, looked pretty good. He was converting 3rd and longs. Jameis Winston, who we know Jameis, went out there, and I understand there was the 2 pick sixes, but there was also 500 yards passing or whatever he went to. Carson Wentz isn't some inexperienced guy coming off the bench. Carson Wentz is a guy that's played a lot of football. He's thrown touchdowns. He's succeeded. And I mentioned it to you earlier. You don't rest your head coach. Andy Reid is still calling the plays. I don't expect the Chiefs are in the locker room right now going, hey, let's win. But these backups, you want to shine. Because if you're a backup, you know what you might be angling for? A contract, a starting position. So I do expect, spoiler, bury the lead, I think the Broncos are going to win this game this weekend. We had Mike Kliss on early. He said that. But let's not be automatic about this, because there's some ways that this could go sideways for the Broncos.
Totally. I mean, let's start with this. There were a bunch of reports on Sunday morning from all the top NFL insiders. Hey, the Chiefs are resting their starters. Chiefs are resting their starters. Andy Reid goes to a press conference yesterday and says, I'm not announcing anything. I'm not announcing anything till I talk to my team. So as we sit here at 8:02 a.m. on this Tuesday, game on Sunday afternoon, nothing's been made official by the Chiefs yet. So let's just start there. Is there a chance, John? Is there a chance that Andy Reid goes, guys, we played on December 25th. Our next meaningful game is not till January 18th or the 19th. Is there a chance that in this next day or two, before the Chiefs get back to practice tomorrow and really start their prep, someone talks them into playing Mahomes, Kelsey, and Chris Jones on Sunday? Even
if it's for just like a half or maybe the full game. I think it's a discussion they're probably having. They're not dumb over there. You know, their ownership is kind of weird over there, but who they have in-house, who they have in charge with the Chiefs, they're not dumb. It's the 4 of them. It's Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones. You can rotate everybody else around him. Those 4 are going to win you the Super Bowl every time.
Is it too much rest is what I'm asking.
Is it too much rest? That's my thing, is they'll have the discussion. They know what they're doing. I don't think it's too much rest, because I think the other thing you do is you flip on the film of the last game and you see Nick Bonito hitting Patrick Mahomes every other play.
Right.
You see Nick Bonito just wrecking. I mean, he should have been sacked 2 more times if he's Mahomes and he gets rid of the ball. It's better than rest knowing you're healthy. What's better than playing the guys, not resting them. So with that, I think the conversation's going to be had. But, okay, last year everybody's saying they can't go on the road and win. What do? They didn't have any wide receivers last year. They were like, watch this, we'll go on the road with no wide receivers and we'll still win the Super Bowl. To think that 2 weeks rest with this team, if this was a team that this was their first run, like the 96 Broncos, who had way too much rest at the end of that season because they clinched the home field right away, that becomes a problem. Not this group that's been doing it over and over again. They can set it. They can get down. They can play. Ultimately, I think they have the discussion because they're smart. I don't expect them to play their starters.
And is there gamesmanship involved in this as well? Like, do you expect Reid to go to the podium tomorrow and announce, hey, Carson Wentz is starting, or do you think he does try to take it down to the wire, lead to some guesswork for Sean Payton and the Broncos of Sean said on his conference call, well, we got to prepare for the scheme. We're not preparing for the players. Guys, it's a lot different if you're playing Mahomes and Kelsey versus Wentz and Noah Gray. I mean, I do think that it would be a mistake on Reid's end to just come out and say it, and I think Broncos country is waiting for him to just come out and say it. I'm not so sure he announces this to the world. I don't see the upside in him telling everyone that he's benching his starters.
Why keep it, though?
Make the Broncos prepare for both.
But yeah,
isn't that Gamesmanship 101?
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, does it matter to you that much? I guess I mean, for the gamesmanship, sure. But I don't know, like, I don't know how much they're like, we have to win this game. We have to win this game. We have to win this game, to where they're doing the gamesmanship thing. The Broncos will prepare for Patrick Mahomes until you tell them not to. And then if you play Carson Wentz, it's like, all right, cool. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the Chiefs get out of I don't think the Broncos will be like, oh my, is that Carson Wentz coming on the field?
Right.
Oh no, we only prepared for Mahomes.
And the other element to this too, and I wrote about this morning at denversports.com, is do the Chiefs want to win this game? Like if you went and had a couple of lattes with them, do they want to win this game? Because if they lose this game, the Bengals are out of the playoffs.
Exactly.
Do you know what Patrick Mahomes' record is in the postseason, John?
He's lost 3 times.
He's 15-3.
Tom Brady, Joe Burrow.
And Tom Brady.
That's it. Those are the 2 guys that have beat him in the postseason.
So he's lost to the GOAT twice, once in an AFC title game when Tom was with New England, once in a Super Bowl when Tom was with Tampa, and once in an AFC title game to Joe Burrow. The Burrowhead legend sort of grew. If you're Kansas City, you're hosting the lowest remaining seed in the divisional round. That means Cincy would just have to win 1 game to go to Arrowhead. I firmly believe if you got the Chiefs hooked up to a polygraph test, they would prefer to lose this football game and keep Cincinnati out of the playoffs.
Well, and Joe beat him in the AFC Championship game. The next year, those calls got a little dicey, and Burrow almost beat him again.
Or a lot dicey.
A lot dicey. Earlier this year, they lost to him by a point. The other thing is, too, but the Bengals got to go to Buffalo first. Yeah, who did they blow out 2 years ago in Buffalo?
In the snow,
In
right?
the snow. The Bengals went up there and beat the hell out of the Buffalo Bills.
So do you think the Chiefs, because that's an interesting point. Chiefs fans may say, well, the only way we play the Bengals is if they eliminate the Bills. Who's the bigger threat to the Chiefs to go to their 3rd straight Super Bowl? Is it the Bills or is it the Bengals?
That's an interesting question because the Bills have beat them in the regular season recently. The Bills, the famous 13-second game, that went to overtime. So you give credit there. Look, Josh Allen, whether you got Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, you're looking pretty good. Joe Burrow doesn't miss. Joe Burrow has been there. Joe Burrow's gone into Kansas City down, 21-3 at halftime and won.
Mm-hmm.
He's the boogeyman. Denver was Tom Brady's house of horrors. It just didn't work for Tom in Denver. Burrow seems to be that for Kansas City. And look, before Chiefs fans fly off the handle, we're not putting the Chiefs down. We're not doing. Oh, shut up. Yes, we are. Burrow is just. They're not scared of Josh Allen. I think there's an element of them. I don't know if they're scared of Joe Burrow, but they know Joe Burrow's not scared of them, and that's what freaks out the Chiefs.
So therefore, you agree with my theory that Kansas City would rather lose this weekend to keep Cincinnati out. Now, the problem is if Pittsburgh beats Cincinnati on Saturday, the Bengals are out, and that could flip the Chiefs' mindset of, well, it's not Cincy, it'd be Miami. So maybe then they actually do try a little harder to beat the Broncos. I think what we all need as Broncos fans is just a laugher, just an easy game.
Yeah.
Like, we need an Atlanta-type game this weekend. It's abundantly clear in the 3rd quarter the Broncos are going to win because, John, we're scarred right now. We're scarred.
Yeah.
The L.A. and Cincinnati losses, those were both gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, devastating. Come up with whatever word you want to use, but when you're up 24-13 in Los Angeles midway through the 3rd quarter, everyone always talks about 21-10. I get the free kick sucked, and that was weird. It was 24-13, your second 11-point lead midway through the 3rd quarter. And then in Cincy, you have a chance to go for 2 with 8 seconds left. Your quarterback's holding up 2. Mike Kliss told us Sean Payton even held up 2 at one point, and you change your mind. Like, I think Broncos country right now is feeling pretty sensitive because heartbreaking losses happen. But for them to happen back-to-back weeks when you have the playoffs on the line for the first time since 2015, we all just want to laugh on Sunday. And we don't care if that's against Carson Wentz. We just need a game that makes us feel like, okay, A, we're back, and B, I'm not having heart palpitations like I was the last 2 games.
That's big. I think they want a laugher. I also think we'll take 13-6 if that's what does it.
No, but you're still going to be stressed during 13-6.
You're going to be stressed, but it's like, okay, look, we got the 10 wins. We're in the playoffs. I think everybody takes a step back and might view things. Look, sports fans will do one thing. They will rationalize and make excuses. If we win this weekend, the Broncos win this weekend, regardless of how it goes, it'll be, well, if Sean goes for 2, we would have had that one. And if Forsyth doesn't do this, we would have had that one. And it becomes this revisionist, like, hey, we're good. We'll gloss over Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball.
Right.
We'll pretend that didn't happen. For the Broncos themselves, they need the laugher quite a bit. They need some good execution out there. That's what they need. They need to know things aren't going to crumble late for them, regardless of who it's against. That is an experienced quarterback in Carson Wentz, if that's who it ends up being. But they've got to get out there. You get this one. Look, I am not comparing these teams. So let me be very clear. 1998, they're undefeated. They drop one to the lowly Giants. And then Mike Shanahan goes out on Monday Night Football and purposefully calls a very vanilla game plan because he figured he'd be seeing the Dolphins again. But the Broncos dropped 2 straight late in that year. You go to the previous Super Bowl year, they go up to Pittsburgh, they get waxed. They go Monday Night Football, San Francisco, they get beat. Both situations, they come back final week of the season, they get their win, they kind of settle down. In both situations, and especially 97, they lost to 2 really good teams late in the year. So you come in, you get your win, even if it's against a bad team, you reset. How it looks is how it looks. I think everybody will kind of come back down to earth a little bit if the Broncos get this win, get 10 wins, because I think it'll be, okay, we got in the playoffs.
I get it. There will be a major exhale if they get in. But what's your nervous meter going into this weekend? Because this would be 2008 all over again. If they miss the playoffs, this would be very eerily similar to 2008, losing 3 straight, absolutely choking it away. I'm just like a 1 to 10. 10 being, I am panicked about this game on Sunday, and a 1 being, they're going to win by 30 because it's Carson Wentz. Where are you at right now?
Given, and real quick, everybody forgets in 2009, Josh's first year, all they had to do was beat a lowly Kansas City team at home in the last week of the season, and they would have made the playoffs. And Jamal Charles in Kansas City came in here and absolutely worked them.
So it was back-to-back heartbreaking.
It was back-to-back. It's just everybody
misses.
hated Josh so bad.
Yeah, that no one talks about it.
It kind of piled on to what we already thought. So this is a team that we've seen this before. And the Tebow year, they lost to Kansas City at home, week 17. They just got some help and still got into the playoffs.
The Chiefs have a history of coming in here and winning these week 18 games. They did it with Mahomes in 2016.
Yeah, Paxton Lynch versus Mahomes.
Right, and I still remember I was doing radio at the time at a different place, and we had Aqib Talib on the show, and Aqib came on, and the question to Aqib was, what did you see out of Patrick Mahomes? And Aqib, famous quote, I saw enough to know Alex Smith's going to be looking for a job. And he was totally right, and that's like peak Aqib, a soundbite like that. But there is a history of the Chiefs winning in Denver in the final week of the season, so that's why I'm curious about your nervous meter.
Just because it's the NFL, nothing's guaranteed. You know, I'm a 7-8 on this. High. I'm not a 10 because I think the Chiefs are doing us a lot of favors here.
Yes.
But it's an 8 because this is an inexperienced team. I'll still hang on this because this is something I said on the pregame all year, going into the Panthers game, going into the Falcons game. This team has not earned the right for me to assume a victory for them. And because of that, yes, they've beaten bad teams. Andy Reid is still the head coach. I'm at an 8 on this. There is so much on the line. The Chiefs have this other thing. The backups have this. One thing you don't want to do late in a season when you have something to lose and the other team doesn't, you don't want to play that team because that team can play with house money. Andy Reid can go for it on 4th down. Andy Reid can fake a punt. Andy Reid, these guys can go deep. These backups can play loose. What do they got to lose? They're on the 1 seed. They're not going to play anymore versus the Broncos who have everything to lose. The Broncos, Mike Kliss brought it up earlier. They could be very tight given how the last game ended. It could be very tight. Execution can get off. We've seen Bo can get a little tight at times. So it's an 8 out of 10 for me. Game day, it's going to shoot up to a 9.5.
Yeah. Are you doing the pregame show?
Yeah, I'll be doing the pregame.
Yeah, you're gonna be nervous. I think all of Broncos country is going to be nervous. A couple of thoughts. First of all, how thankful are we to the Buffalo Bills? Because if the Bills had not beaten the Chiefs, they'd be 16-0. And I promise you, Mahomes and Kelsey would be playing, going for that undefeated season, trying to be the first team ever to go 20-0 in the history of the NFL, win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. I don't think Andy Reid would be resting his starters if they had that kind of history on the line.
No, because you've got a 3-peat and an undefeated season online. The players wouldn't let him. I know that's crazy, but Patrick Mahomes wouldn't let him. Going into that Bills game, I was telling everybody we need the Bills to win this one. Well, actually, no. I was the opposite. I was like, because I figured Kansas City would lose, but I did need them to lose. But we need the Bills to win this one, but then we need the Chiefs to win out after that. And you looked at the Chiefs' schedule and was like, they're going to win out.
Right.
Now, it's looked, I mean, the Raiders game with the ball snapping, the Chiefs, the way they've won these games is absolutely insane. But the Bills doing their thing where the Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season, throw a parade, forget they probably got to still beat them in the postseason.
Right.
It happened. The Bills did them a favor. I've been cheering for Kansas City for 5 weeks. ever since they lost to the Bills.
And that feels so dirty, but I get why you've had to do that.
It's been fun. It's been fun to actually
Has
get.
it?
It's been fun to be like, nah, that was a good call. The
Yeah.
refs got it. No, that's a good call. You know what was true though, real quick, is when I was watching the Christmas game against the Steelers, and I'm like, we need the Chiefs to win. I'd find myself accidentally cheering against the Chiefs just off habit.
And then it's Russell Wilson on the other side, so it feels weird. Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up to you was, and people can go read this at denversports.com, my column this morning was perspective can wait. The Broncos missing the playoffs would be crushing. And maybe in a couple months we can have perspective if that's indeed the case and no one wants to think about it. But perspective right now, if the unthinkable happens, John, absolutely not. Because after the Broncos beat the Colts on December 15th, every model out there had the team comfortably north of a 90% chance to make the postseason. I mean, it's been simple. Win one of the final 3 games of the year, and we're dancing for the first time since 2015. But those gut-wrenching losses to the Bengals and the Chargers now have it win one and you're in. I just feel like, and I want to know what you think in the ramoslaw.com text line, but I just feel like I'll have perspective in March, dude. I'll have perspective in April that they overachieved, but I can't get on board with this. Well, even if they collapse, it was still a great season. Not right now. Not right now.
No, you're right. So I found myself doing toxic positivity last week and heading into the Bengals game, being like, well, it's 9 wins. They're ahead of schedule if they miss the playoffs. That was dumb of me. The way I reacted to the Chargers game, the way I reacted to the Bengals game, lets me know I will feel crushed if they miss the playoffs.
So you're with me.
Yeah, so those games were both a microcosm of the season.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. They blew it. And so, maybe I gain perspective in March because there will be a lot of positives to look at. But it will be a massive disappointment. Choke job's a pretty tough one, given that you had Herbert and Burrow down the stretch and Andy Reid. But it will be a major disappointment, and Broncos country will feel justified if they're a little angry with the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton should they miss the playoffs.
And I think it's okay to adjust expectations as the season goes on.
Sure.
You were 9-5. I mean, you were 9-5. At that point, I am adjusting my expectations. I do want the Broncos to make the playoffs. I mean, I think once that happened, the playoffs had to be the only acceptable goal, especially when this fan base has not seen a postseason game since Super Bowl 50. Think about how different your life was at that point in time.
I was in my 30s.
Well, there's step one. You were in your 30s. But I'm even just talking to everyone driving around right now. Like, remember where you watched Super Bowl 50. Everyone remembers where they watched it, whose house they were at, what bar they were at. If you were lucky enough to be in Santa Clara that day, like, everyone remembers where they were. They haven't played a playoff game since, and I got people on social media telling me, have some perspective. Have some perspective. They got to a winning season in Bo Nix's rookie year. Again, guys, I'll have that perspective in the spring. But you and I aren't going to be here on Monday, January 6th. It'll be Mike and Stoke and Stink. You think that's going to be a real pleasant show this coming Monday if the Broncos miss the playoffs? No. It'll be a vent session. Guys will be ticked. It'll be that same way for Cecil and Josh. It'll be the same way for Zach and Phil. Like, no one's going to do the whole we have perspective thing the day after they complete a collapse. If it happens, I'm not predicting it happens, but the reason I wrote about this is because there's too many folks out there right now telling us to have perspective. It's sports. I'm allowed to be emotional. And I was emotional after the Chargers game. I was emotional after the Bengals game. And if they somehow lose this weekend, you can sure as heck bet I will be emotional.
That's how I know that I won't handle it well. Because I didn't leave last week's game. Because you could take a step back, let's say, and go, hey guys, the reason we lost is because Joe Burrow's the best player in the world. And sometimes great players play great.
We may have to get back to that. That's a strong statement. He's a very, very good player, but you just call him the best player in the world.
He's right, yeah. I mean, people want to give me Mahomes, that's fine. But after that, come on, guys.
We'll return to that thought.
Zach By's on his way down here in a Josh Allen jersey to fight me. But
with a baseball bat.
But with the point is, if you want to take that whole perspective thing, you could say, guys, it was Joe Burrow playing lights out. That's why we lost. No, at the end of the game, I'm going, you gave the ball back to that guy. Why didn't you go for 2? Yeah. You didn't go for 2. How do you sack a guy 7 times and lose? How do you get a Hail Mary essentially, and then the guy doinks? All you need is a tie. and they doink the field goal. They're out of timeouts. How do you mess that up? The fact that that's what I was saying after the game lets me know that if they lose this weekend, I will be saying they didn't even play Patrick Mahomes. They didn't play Travis Kelce. You had 9, and you had however many games left. The narrative then becomes this is 2 years in a row. They had the playoffs in their sight, and Sean Payton kind of fumbled the bag down the stretch. Broncos country will be justified, allowed. It will be understood if they're devastated, if the Broncos miss the playoffs, because that hope was there. The turnaround was in front of us. We finally have gotten over the hump. And then it's the same team that lost to Mitch Trubisky a few years ago. It's the same team that lost to Gardner Minshew a few years ago. They'll just choke at different times, but in the end, they'll choke.
Well, and that adds a layer of pressure to the task at hand for the Broncos. The Chiefs not playing their starters, which, again, Andy Reid hasn't confirmed, but we're all assuming he won't. I mean, they have to win, John. They have to win. They have to make the postseason, and they have to avoid a season-ending meltdown that would sting for months. I mean, it would sting for months because perspective can wait if Denver somehow loses on Sunday. But not making the playoffs after everything that's gone right this year, a lot's gone right this year, that would stink for a long, long time. It just would.
It would. Well, we still talk about 08. I mentioned 09. We still talk about, we'll be talking about Christmas Eve last year. For a while, you don't remember the game that you won at the end that you had to get in. You remember those, but when you blew it, that's what sticks with you. I mean, 2008, they weren't going to the Super Bowl, but we still remember 3 games left, blowing it at home in 2 degrees versus Buffalo.
When it got the best coach in franchise history fired.
It got him fired. So with that, no, everybody should feel devastated if the Broncos win it because it's all right in front of us. But with that,
it was right in front of us.
It was at that point. It would be. It was right in front of us. That said, you back it up a little bit. If the Broncos win this weekend, the way that certain lessons have to be learned, you have to kind of push through before you can really get there. The Bills decided to go the long game and are taking 9 years to learn lessons to get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
But with that, the way the Joe Burrow game went, the way you blew it against the Chargers, those are 2. I get the Bengals might not make the playoffs. When you get to the playoffs, you've been in some tough games with some tough teams. The Chiefs game earlier this year. That mindset, I think they head to Buffalo. I do think, and I'm not trying to spin, it's good they lost. That's never the case. But the fact that you had a lot of good teams on the ropes, good quarterbacks on the ropes, maybe that settles them down as they head into Buffalo if they can get in this weekend.
Yeah, and I do think you make a good point there of Bo Nix, we all hope will hoist Lombardi someday. Probably not going to be this year. Okay, I think we can all get that. But getting your first playoff loss out of the way this year means that next year's playoff game, you already have that experience of playing in the postseason. That's another reason you got to make the playoffs. You got to learn how to lose in the playoffs before you win. Nikola Jokic infamously said that on the Nuggets, or famously said that on the Nuggets' way to their first title, is you have to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win. Isn't it very big to check the Bo Nix box this season that he learned how to play in a playoff game and what that is like, so that next year, the year after, the more playoff games he has under his belt, the better prepared he will be.
And that's one reason you look at Justin Herbert. He blew it in the playoffs a few years ago. That, in a game like they had against the Broncos a few weeks ago, that's in his head. That's in his not today. Patrick Mahomes lost to Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game. So we've seen it. You do have to learn it, especially you go up, you get a hostile environment in Buffalo, that type of stuff. So no, get in the playoffs, get that experience out of the way. And I think I agree with you in your article here at denversports.com. It'll be crushing if they don't make the playoffs.
It will be. And again, I'll have perspective in the spring, but don't hit me on Sunday night. Oh, they won 9 games. That's just not going to be the mood I'm in. Circle back to me once we've changed the clocks back and it's like light out till 7 o'clock.
And it's the draft, and then you can talk yourself into your team being a contender.
Exactly.
And that's how it works every year.
And they maybe could be a contender next year.
I think they can be.
And real quick, if you go to Buffalo, everything's gravy. Okay? Everything.